Hey there. Ready to dive into some seriously cool industrial tech today?
I'm ready when you are.
We're talking Eigen technologies and how they're using real-time analysis in places that, um, you know, used to move pretty slow.
Yeah, like a snail's pace.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
if you're looking to make your plant more efficient and maybe save some energy, you're in the right place.
absolutely. What's fascinating about Eigen is they're tackling this challenge that refineries and petrochemical plants, those massive facilities have faced forever. Like, how do we actually see what's happening inside these complex processes?
Okay, so paint that picture for me. Like, what's the old way of doing things and why is it a problem? Because these are some pretty sophisticated operations, right?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Think about like giant distillation towers, the heart of a lot of these plants, separating crude oil or natural gas into all of the different valuable components.
Right.
The traditional way to track what's going on inside with all those temperatures and pressures is with these things called gas chromatographs, GCs.
GC's got it. Those lab instruments. They're accurate, but not exactly known for their speed.
Exactly. And speed is key when you need to optimize a process that's changing by the minute, right?
Yeah.
These GCs, they can lag behind real-time conditions by like 20 minutes or even more.
Oh, wow. So you're fighting yesterday's battle. No wonder there's room to improve.
It's like trying to steer a ship in a storm with a map that's 20 minutes old.
Okay, yeah. That's not a recipe for success. So where does Eigen come in?
So Eigen developed the Eigen IC analyzer, and it's a game changer, basically. Instead of waiting for, infrequent lab results, this is like having a live video feed of what's happening inside those processes in near real time.
Okay, now we're talking about how do they actually pull that off? Because I got to say, it's not just a matter of, slapping on a few extra sensors on a distillation column.
No, you're absolutely right. It's way more sophisticated than that. Eigen's using something called machine learning transformers. You might have heard of this technology. It's what powers things like ChatGPT.
ChatGPT, everyone's favorite AI chatbot, right?
Yeah.
But what makes these transformers so well suited for these heavy industrial applications?
What's cool about transformers is their knack for finding patterns in massive amounts of data. We're talking years of historical data from sensors in your plant, all that good stuff, temperatures, pressures, flow rates.
So even if you don't completely grasp every little chemical reaction happening in that distillation tower, these transformers can still near it out.
It's pretty amazing. Eigen has this specific model they've trained called the distillation inference transformer. It analyzes all that sensor data and it starts to anticipate what the process will do next.
So it's thinking ahead.
And the results are really something they can accurately predict product properties up to 28 minutes in the future.
Now that's thinking ahead, but what really struck me, and I was looking at their presentation at that at Cheek conference in New Orleans, was their focus on data security.
Yeah, that's a big deal for a lot of these plants.
Absolutely. These facilities, they can't afford to have their data, floating around in the cloud or worse, vulnerable to some kind of cyber attack.
Absolutely. And Eigen gets that their system is designed to run entirely on premise within the plant's secure operational technology network, their OT network.
So no data ever leaves your control.
It's like having this high security vault for all your data, but it's right there in your plant's control room.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And what's really impressive is that it could even be set up for these air gap deployments.
Yeah.
But hold on. For those of us who don't speak fluent tech, what does air gapped even mean?
Think of it like the ultimate digital fortress. An air-gapped system is totally isolated from the outside world, no internet access, no external connections at all,
Wow.
which means there's basically zero chance of someone getting an unauthorized or cyber attacks, which is huge when we're talking about critical infrastructure.
Talk about peace of mind. But if it's completely isolated, how do you even update the software? Are we talking like SneakerNet here, loading updates on flash drives?
No, not quite that. They've got these really secure protocols in place. Any updates are delivered and installed in a way that keeps that air gap completely intact so there's no compromise to security. It's actually really impressive how they've figured that out.
You're right to be thinking about that. And what stood out to me when I was going through their HA presentation, they haven't sacrificed user friendliness for security.
Okay, because let's face it, sometimes those super secure systems, they can be a real pain to actually use.
Yeah, it's like trying to break into Fort Knox just to change the settings.
Exactly.
Eigen's taken a totally different approach. They actually designed it to be pretty user-friendly, even for teams who maybe aren't experts in AI or machine learning.
So walk me through what's the process like to actually get one of these systems up and running?
So Eigen's really hands-on. It all starts with figuring out what your plant's all about, What are you trying to achieve? They take a deep dive into all your data, looking for those hidden patterns that can lead to, some big efficiency gains.
So they're like data detectives. Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
And every plant's different. So every Eigen system is custom built for that specific process and the equipment.
Right.
That's where their machine learning really shines. It's always learning, adapting to your plant's unique sort of fingerprint.
So it's not like they just install it and vanish. They stick around.
Oh, absolutely. They provide ongoing support, making sure the system's humming along, and your team knows how to use it effectively.
That's key.
And here's the cool part. All that training and support that can be done remotely without ever messing with that air gap security.
That's huge because you don't want to be flying in specialists all the time or putting your data at risk.
Exactly. You get all the good stuff about AI and real-time analysis, but with the security and control of a system, that's all yours on your terms.
Sounds too good to be true.
Eh.
So let's talk results. They're making some pretty bold claims about increased efficiency. What are we talking about in the real world?
So Eigen's deployments have shown they can boost throughput in places like fractionators, those towers we were talking about, that separate natural gas by more than 3% while cutting energy use by over 5%.
Which maybe doesn't sound like a lot.
But when you're talking about industrial scale operations, those small percentages can be a really big deal.
Yeah, those percentage points translate to massive savings.
Exactly. For a big fractionator handling, tens of thousands of barrels a day, a 3% increase, that's a ton of extra barrels.
And at today's prices, that's a nice little bonus.
Oh.
And on top of that, you have the lower energy costs as well.
Plus, it's not just about the money. This kind of efficiency means less waste and lower emissions, which is something every company's thinking about these days.
For sure.
Okay.
You sold me. Eigen's technology sounds like a win-win on multiple levels. But they've really focused on these huge refineries and chemical plants.
Yeah.
Are those the only places where this tech really makes sense?
So far, that's been their sweet spot. But here's the thing about Eigen's approach. It's incredibly adaptable. Anywhere you've got a complex process that generates mountains of data, that's where Eigen could really shake things up.
So potentially even broader applications down the road.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole area so fascinating. Who knows what other industries they might impact in the future?
It's like they've taken this really complex AI research and made it work in the real world. These factories and plants.
Exactly. And they've done it in a way that just makes sense for these companies. They get the need for security, reliability, user-friendliness. That's what makes Eigen stand out.
For sure. But what's got me thinking, if they can do all this in refineries and chemical plants, what about other industries? Could they benefit from this too?
That's the big question, isn't it? Anywhere you have a complicated process with tons of data, Eigen could probably step in. We've talked oil and gas, but what about food processing, pharmaceuticals, even things like paper mills or water treatment?
It's like giving them a whole new set of tools. Instead of relying on, gut feeling or outdated methods, they can actually use data to make decisions in real time.
Exactly. Imagine fine-tuning how we produce medicine, reducing waste in food production, making water treatment more efficient. The possibilities are huge.
It really feels like we're on the edge of this whole new era of industrial efficiency. And it's because of companies like Eigen.
And it's not just about doing more with less. It's about sustainability, too.
Yeah.
When you can squeeze more value out of everything, you reduce your impact on the environment.
So it's a win for businesses, a win for people, and a win for the planet.
Exactly.
Now that's what I call a deep dive. If you're listening and want to learn more about Eigen Technologies, we've got links in the show notes. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the world of technology.
See you next time.